I thought it was all over.
Welcome back to Roll Coverage. This is your host, Nick McCandless. I want to get into it today. We are talking soccer to start. Thing I want to talk about first is Messi. Dude is on a tear. Tear? You know what? He's on a prolific run in the MLS. Reason why I say that, Inter Miami is already going to the finals. They just beat Philadelphia Union 4-1 after a ridiculous goal by Messi. Like, I saw a ridiculous stat that his other teammate, Yusef Martinez, something like that. I'm going to pull it up right now so this way I don't ruin this man's name. But this man has played, where is it? I just saw this man. Yosef Martinez, so I was right. The Venezuelan has appeared in 24 more games, yet they have the same amount of goals, 9. I don't understand what we're doing now. Like, to think that Messi would come to the United States, come to the MLS, essentially leave PSG football while it has Mbappe, Neymar, him, all that other stuff, to then go to Inter Miami on a deal that incentivizes you to win, that incentivizes you to do all the other stuff, and you come over and just immediately dominate. It's like, yeah, no shit. No offense. When we go look at history, we look at people like Zlatan. Zlatan came over, and there was an MLS player whose name is escaping me right now, and I forgive that. But he was like, oh, you're over here playing, you're old, you're blah, blah, blah. And then Zlatan went after him and talked about, you're playing in the MLS in your prime. When I was playing in my prime, I was playing in Europe. We were winning chips. We were doing all that other stuff. So don't even come at me with that. And I love that. I love that the MLS is slowly getting a little bit more of an edge like the other sports have. The MLS is still very babyface, in my opinion, very underwhelming at times when it comes to the talent. But obviously that's changing quite a bit with the acquisition of Messi. I think they added 2 or 3 more Argentinian teammates that he had. So, I mean, they've got a squad now. And obviously Inter is going to win the final. If they lose the final, like that. If Messi comes and loses his first final in the MLS, that would be kind of funny. But I just don't see it happening. Messi is one of the greatest football players of all time, regardless of my views on him. He's going to continue to tear up the MLS as long as he wants to. The deal is working out perfectly for him over the Al Hilal deal that was offered for the Saudi Pro League. So, Messi, you made the right decision with that. The amount of goals you're scoring is obviously indicative of the talent you're used to playing against, as opposed to the MLS's current pool of talent. Now, obviously, you have a little bit of advantage because Inter Miami is going, elbow deep in securing a final for them and securing a chip and continuing Messi's legacy and obviously cementing him as an Inter Miami guy post-Europe, post South America and everything like that, where he can then come into his own and really start to get more of a foothold in the United States. And I think that's what the MLS is hoping for, is they are hoping that he will be the bell cow that will carry the MLS and soccer as a whole into the forefront of American thought. Now, I personally live in Colorado. I've seen the Switchbacks play. I think it's great. I think that they're going to, the sport as a whole is growing in the United States. Sport as a whole is growing in the United States. My personal favorite team is Charlotte FC. I'm a Charlotte fan through and through. So, obviously, I wanted us to do well in our quarterfinal against Inter, but that wasn't going to happen. I even told my wife, I said, man, if we pull this off, I'm going to get a Charlotte FC tattoo and the whole 9, but it's I just didn't see it happening. I didn't. And unfortunately it didn't, but we're still a newer franchise, so we have time to develop. We have time to grow and build a better team. And obviously Messi won't be around forever, so I think this is for all my football fans, this is a lot like the Tom Brady thing where everyone was waiting for him to leave. I think now the MLS is at a point where they're going to say, hey man, yeah, we're just waiting for Messi to retire so we could actually get some chips for some other teams now. So With that being said, I do think that Messi continues to dominate. Like I said, Inter Miami is going to remain at the top for a while. As long as he's there. I also believe that this is going to develop U.S. talent, which is what we need for the U.S. men's and women's national team. Obviously, a heartbreaking loss recently with the women's national team. And I'll get into the Women's World Cup after this and pull up my bracket and all that other stuff. Didn't do very good. Kind of went on based on the men's because this is my first year getting into the women's. So I promise in the future, any women's soccer players out there, I'm so sorry. I'm absolutely committing myself to learning a few sports and staying up on them this year. Women's soccer is going to be one of those, not only at the high level as an Olympic level, I'm also meaning at the college level. So I would eventually get to the point where I'd like to, understand these girls that are coming up into our U.S. women's national team and really understand where they're coming from, their skill sets and everything like that. Just kind of how we do with football and baseball and basketball. I think that the women's sports are just not getting the love, so I really want to make a push for that personally. So expect to see more coverage of that in the future. But just to wrap this up, I do believe that Messi is changing the game. I did a story yesterday in episode 4 where we talked about Neymar moving to Al Hilal. And then obviously the acquisition of Ronaldo to Al Nasser is a big one. The Saudi Pro League is going to continue to develop, but I think that right now Messi is pulling a lot of that talent away from the money in the Saudi Pro League and is going to start pulling it towards the MLS. I do think, honestly, that Ronaldo's going to come to the MLS after his Saudi deal, and same thing with Neymar. I think it's going to be a natural progression of top-tier European and South American talent, or just non-US talent, is they're going to eventually just come to the MLS just to make, a few million on the top. They don't have to do anything too crazy, and they're playing against more subpar talent, so they're playing against, League 4 guys, essentially, if you were to do it in the English football standard in the Premier League. So, yeah, they're, again, I hope that we continue to develop and cultivate the talent that we have here in the United States, and I hope that that doesn't stop. I hope that in the future, soccer could become one of our top sports, because I truly believe that if we were to focus on that as a nation, we would do exceptionally well, and our talent pool is so ridiculous that we could just do amazing things. But with that, this is Nick with Roll Coverage. We're going to move on to the next topic. Just give me 1 second to get everything all switched over. Be right back. Welcome back to Roll Coverage. This is your host, Nick, and I want to get into the Women's World Cup, getting away from Lionel Messi and the MLS. So personally, the World Cup is going great. I've tuned into a few games. I was able to watch Switzerland, Spain. I did pick Spain in that one. I did watch the American-Sweden game, and we got crushed there, so that was very sad. But overall, my bracket is terrible. I'm going to put it up on the screen right now real quick. I just don't think that, obviously, I know women's soccer very well, so that's going to be something that's going to need to change here soon. You can obviously see where I was going: Norway over the United States, Norway, Netherlands, and then France and England on the other side, with France being the winner. Now, Spain, England. England, I am probably going to take England. They're saying it's a flip, so I don't know. I want Spain would be nice to win. England would win, but that's fine. Obviously, the United States losing in the round of 16 was not great. I'm not too happy about that, but we'll get there. One of the things I did want to talk about, though, is the possible Golden Boot contenders. I'm pulling this article from ESPN where they're talking about it. It says, after opening the scoring for Sweden, their quarterfinal win over Japan, defender Amanda Ilsed. I'm sorry. Geez, these names are really tough. There's a young lady, Miss Ilset from Sweden. Again, really going to butcher these last names, so I'm going to really try. Diani of France, Pop of Germany, and Roord of the Netherlands. So there's obviously opportunities. When it comes to Golden Boot previous winners, we have ones like Megan Rapinoe in the Women's World Cup of 2019 in France. So we have some, precedent of some different players getting it, middies, defenders, and everything like that. But overall, I'm really excited to watch this final. It is in 4 days at 4 a.m. my time, so that's going to be a little tough, but we're up at 6 a.m. every day, so I might as well just get up. And yeah, this Women's World Cup is an eye-opener for me. It's showed me that I need to touch more on the subject. I need to tackle it more. Like I said in the last video, I really want to start following women's soccer a little bit more, not only at the Olympic level, but also at the college level to see these girls coming up. My other focus is also going to be the WNBA, so we're going to get there as well. So please give me time. I know this bracket was terrible, probably going to upset a lot of diehard women's soccer fans, but promise I will get better. This is just my first one. Didn't do great at all, 38.7% pick rate. But obviously, again, I didn't have the knowledge, so this one I'll take the big fat all on. But yeah, I'm very excited for this game. I'm excited to see how the women's side of soccer is going to develop over the course of the next decade. I think it's going to explode. I think that the women's basketball and soccer is going to, soon far trump many other sectors of sports. Maybe not the big three, but there's some others it could possibly fight with. So that's just my thoughts. Obviously I'm rooting for the United States to come back, but I'm honestly either way in this championship. I originally picked France over Norway, so I'm out of the pick for this one. I'm down with anybody. I will go with the rest of the world and say anybody but England, so we'll make our official pick Spain. But other than that, yeah, man, this is Nick with World Coverage. I promise there will be more stuff of this, more women's sports coverage and everything like that. Just give us time. This is Nick. We will be back. We are going to get into this thing I want to focus on now, back to the NFL. And the story I want to focus on is Anthony Richardson has been named the starter of the Colts. And for some reason, people are surprised by that. And the person that I'm really talking about is an article posted by Mr. Holder, Stephen Holder of ESPN, where he was speaking on Anthony Richardson becoming the starter. I'm just going to read the first little blurb of this, where he said it took 1 quarter of preseason action for Anthony Richardson to solidify himself as the Colts' starting quarterback. Richardson, this year's 4th overall draft pick, will be the Colts' starter this season, Coach Shane Steichen announced Tuesday. The news comes days after Richardson's preseason debut against the Buffalo Bills on Saturday. Richardson never saw it coming. Honestly, I was shocked. Dude, you're the 4th overall pick. You went out there and was able to run the ball effectively. And obviously, a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, he's a quarterback. But I understand that he still was able to scramble and able to get out of it. I understand the sidearm interception is going to be something that people are going to talk about. Don't. Patrick Mahomes side throws it. All that. There's plenty of people that side throw it. Aaron Rodgers will side throw it. But everyone thinks that he's going to the Super Bowl. Obviously, I'm not putting him on the level as either of those two men. But what I'm saying is that is not indicative of a bad quarterback. Plenty of quarterbacks do that. It's also his first start in the NFL, and everybody's dig on him coming out of college was that he didn't get enough starts. So letting him start in the preseason and letting him figure it out is wrong because he threw a pick, or would you rather sit him and then throw that pick in the regular season? Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes more sense now, doesn't it? Okay. But regardless, Anthony Richardson is Cam Newton 2.0. Okay, a lot of people are going to say he's close to Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson has a much slimmer build, in my opinion. They're obviously close to the same size, but I believe Anthony Richardson will play closer to where my former Carolina Panthers quarterback Cam Newton will play. He's going to be a big presence. He's going to be amazing in the red zone. He's going to absolutely psych people out with the run pass option, the RPO. There's going to be a lot of opportunities that he's going to have to score. And I would not be surprised if he breaks the total touchdown record for rookie quarterbacks this year. I think it's like 29 or 30 or something like that. So wouldn't be too hard to break, especially with running and passing. So I expect him to do well. I expect him to develop, and I don't expect the Colts to make a Super Bowl run, if anybody's going to try and talk about that. But the one thing I will say is that overall, I think that Anthony Richardson is going to develop well if the Colts allow him to. Now, one of the things I am going to pull up is this little infographic, which I will put on the screen. Most consecutive season openers with a different starting quarterback. Anthony Richardson starting in week 1 will mark the 8th consecutive season opener where the Colts have had a different starting quarterback, tied for the second longest such streak since quarterback starts were first tracked in 1950. The first one is the 98 to the 06 Bears. They had 9. Then it's the 16 to the 23 Colts with 8 on their active streak. They would then tie it by starting him officially. The 2000 to 07 Washington, at the time, Redskins. The 97 to 04 Bengals. And then the 66 to 73 Broncos. So there's obviously quite a bit of precedent on why it could be a really, interesting thing. But if anybody's going to make him work, I think the Colts system is somebody where you can drop them in, and their defense, their offensive line, their running back room when they had Jonathan Taylor, even their wide receiver room, they've got a few guys that I really like Pittman, and there's one other guy whose name is escaping me right now, but you guys have some people. You guys have pieces. I think the problem is that you guys are just missing something. I'm not really sure what that is. Hopefully with the addition of Shane Steichen in there and, hopefully cleaning up the offense, getting rid of Matty Ice, who I think was just a drain on the organization. I think he should have just stayed a Falcon and just kind of, gone that way. But obviously they went the Mariota route. They're going the Desmond Ridder route now, so that's a whole separate thing. So, yeah, really focusing on Anthony Richardson. I just hope that he develops. Hope he stays healthy. I hope he continues to focus on learning his playbook, on really understanding that system, because if he is going to turn out to be like somebody like what we're hearing in training camp about Bryce Young, my Panthers quarterback, is that he's already digested the playbook and he's able to pretty much regurgitate it, on cue almost. So if that's the case, that's where Anthony Richardson needs to get to, because that's the only thing holding him back. If he knows where these guys are going to be, he doesn't need to use all the power. He can time the throws. There's other ways to do it, and I think it's just going to take time for him to develop. So personally, I am going to be in 5 sleeper leagues this year. So Anthony Richardson will be the quarterback I will most likely go after if I cannot acquire Bryce Young, just because he's my Panthers quarterback. I'm going to be a little bit of a homer when it comes to that. So Anthony Richardson is going to be a big go after for me. I think he is going to surprise a lot of people. I think there's going to be a lot of times where people have him on their bench, and he's going to absolutely show up and end up with multiple touchdowns, bunch of 300 plus passing yards, maybe 100 rushing yards. Like, he's going to have a few pop-off games. We're going to be like, oh my God. So for that reason, man, I give the Colts, an A on this trade, or an A on this draft. Richardson, please be smart. Please study the playbook. Please stay focused on the road ahead. You're going to absolutely smash the competition. You just need to develop in that system and really digest it, understand it, and be able to execute it. The one thing that Luck had over everybody was he was so freaking smart. So he was just, if they were actually able to protect him, if you would have taken him and put him on a much better team, Andrew Luck on the Patriots, you think Bill Belichick and Andrew Luck couldn't have won a title or a bunch of titles? Absolutely. It's just the organization he was with. That's why I believe that it's where you're drafted. So if Anthony Richardson succeeds, it is because the Colts allowed him to. And I understand a lot of people are going to be like, oh, well, blah, 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 blah. There's going to be a lot of excuses, a lot of people coping with the fact that he is the bell cow for their offense and their defense, because if he can keep the offense on the field, that keeps their defense off the field and keeps them rested to go out there and actually get the ball back, which I think they can do. But again, it's all about where you go. Bryce Young to the Panthers could be a great thing with Frank Reich there. C.J. Stroud going to the Texans could be a disaster scenario because it's the Texans and they don't really have anything kind of there. Now, obviously, they acquired a lot of talent in the offseason, but that's a whole other video. So with Richardson, let him develop, let him cook, let him do whatever you want to call it. But the man needs to grow. And he needs to grow with a team that's going to want him to stay with them long term, is going to want to pay him, and is going to want to put those pieces around him this year, next year, and in the years coming. So if we end up seeing that Anthony Richardson ends up sliding a little bit, I foresee there being a little bit more of a controversy and them trying to put in Gardner Minshew. And if they do that, that's the Colts inhibiting Richardson's development. He's the 4th overall pick. And if you're going to put Gardner Minshew in over him, then you already know that pick is worthless. So keep him in the game. Keep him in. Keep him in. Keep him in. I'm going to keep driving it home. If you take him out at any point barring injury, you are inhibiting his development, and that is not good for the franchise. That is not good for the player. That is not good for wins. That is not good for Super Bowls. So stop this pretending of, oh, well, it's a controversy. Like Anthony Richardson should have known from the beginning, you're the 4th overall pick. You're either going to work now or you're not going to work. Super simple. So with all that being said, this is Nick with Roll Coverage. I'm going to move on to the next topic. Good luck, Anthony Richardson, in the future. I cannot wait to see you develop. I cannot wait to see you light up fantasy. I cannot wait to see you put up a ton of wins. I cannot wait to see you win a championship one day. But that year is not this year, so let's start the development process. Good luck, Anthony Richardson.
Ian James on the beat.
So, last thing I want to talk about today is the recent report or recent podium and everything like that of Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson went up there and was talking about Ravens' new offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, and about how he was allowing him to insert plays, insert coverages, and kind of see what's going on in practice. I'm going to do a direct quote from an article written by Jamison Hensley, ESPN staff writer, posted on the 15th of August, 2023 at 2:34 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, according to this. The direct quote is, I was just on social media and I saw a couple routes and I sent it to quarterbacks coach T. Martin, and he was like, I'm going to relay the message to Todd Monken. Jackson said after Tuesday's joint practice with the Commanders, Coach Monken liked the play, so he put it in practice. We didn't show it today, but I feel like it was good for us. And I agree with that. This isn't not the old head way of thinking anymore. This is not the, we're paying him money and, we run the organization, so he's just kind of deal with that, and he's going to run our offense, and he doesn't need input. Like, that's the reason why previous quarterbacks have left. Aaron Rodgers left because he didn't get enough input. Tom Brady left because he didn't get enough input. So why is everybody getting so upset when Lamar Jackson does it? Now, obviously, we're going to avoid the one part of it, which is, very apparent with the whole running back quarterback thing that was very, very linked to his race. I'm obviously not going to turn that into this conversation now, but just something to think about over time. But Lamar Jackson is a top 5 quarterback. If you don't think Lamar Jackson's a top 5 quarterback, then you absolutely have a more nefarious reason for believing that. Lamar Jackson he's fifth on that list. He's got an MVP. He's been very successful at almost every level. He has a playoff win. Like, what else do we need? We want to put Justin Herbert in the top 5 with no MVP, with no nothing, with no playoff success, that just got routed by the Jaguars. But you guys want to keep Lamar Jackson out of the top 5, which makes no sense. So I'm not going to play into the slander. I'm not going to play into all this. I'm very excited to see what the Ravens are going to do this year. My wife is actually a diehard Ravens fan. One of my favorite player, other than my actual favorite player, my number 2, is Shannon Sharp. Longtime Bronco, which I now live in Colorado, and longtime Raven, which we also lived in Maryland. I'm actually moving back here soon, so it'll be great. But I've always kind of loved the Ravens. They're my backup team and all that other stuff. I've always said in these videos, I am a Panthers fan, so I will make that 100% transparent, especially when I talk about rookie quarterbacks, because I'm going to be bringing up Bryce Young quite a bit. But on Lamar, he is a quarterback that if he was to walk away in free agency, I wanted my Panthers to pay him whatever he needed. You want $55 million a year? Done. Who cares? Because what he would be able to do to a franchise if he was to go there, okay. I'm going to go with this one crazy scenario that somebody that I follow on Twitter came up with. I'll see if I can find it. If I can, I'll put it up. If not, it basically boils down to this. The idea that Lamar Jackson, they would have let Lamar walk and said, hey, go out there and see what you can get. And then the Commanders, Dan Snyder, before he leaves, offers Lamar like a $300 million contract, like $65 million a year, blah, 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 signs the contract, gets it done, and then deuces out the door with the sale, so this way somebody else has to deal with it. Now, if you think that Lamar Jackson wouldn't have then taken that ability from the Ravens to the Commanders, and you think that the Commanders weren't immediately going to be a massive playoff team, especially now with the acquisition of Jahan Dotson and all that other stuff, that's a whole separate thing. They've got a great running back room. Defenses, obviously, got some pieces on that side. So I'm not going to feed into this narrative that Lamar is some like, oh, we wouldn't want him kind of thing. Lamar is like I said, top 5 quarterback, period. I'd personally, like I said, on my list, I'd probably have him. It'd probably be it's 5 for most people because that's the one where I don't have to deal with the argument of just, oh, well, he's this, he's that. It's like, okay, whatever. If he's 5, most people will just give me that win. On my personal list, he's probably 4. I'd probably go Mahomes 1. 2 would probably be Burrow just because he got to the Super Bowl so quickly, but he will be demoted obviously if he doesn't go back in the next few years, or if it just continually becomes a thing where he's injured or something like that. So right now he's 2 just because of the potential. I do believe obviously Lamar has a much better resume minus the Super Bowl appearance. But do we weigh an MVP as much as a Super Bowl appearance? That's a whole separate thing. 3 is a tough one when we really get in there. 3 is really where I could put Lamar. Most people would put Allen, but I don't think Allen has it. So yeah, he's in that like weird 3-4 thing. Like I said in a previous video, I think that the Bills are going to take a whole huge step off, which will only elevate Lamar. So just keep Lamar in your thoughts. Keep him in your prayers if you pray. Keep him in all that stuff. But the one thing I will say is that this podcast will forever love Lamar. I love the tweet before where somebody was like, oh, you did this. And he's like, well, clearly you don't love Lamar. We love you, Lamar. You're great. I'm very happy to have you back with the Ravens. I'm very happy to see you get Odell Beckham to see exactly what that's going to turn into. Hopefully something amazing. That dynamic run game, everything that you guys have. I'm very excited for the Ravens. You guys are my dark horse MVP. I think you guys really have the potential as long as everybody stays healthy. So with that, this is Nick with Roll Coverage. We're going to get out of here today. Hopefully you enjoyed our topics. Today we got to talk about Messi, the Women's World Cup, Anthony Richardson being named the starter of the Indianapolis Colts, and now this. It's going to be a good year, guys. It's going to be a great sports year. I'm very excited. But with that, let's get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your day.